questions. Instead of looking at me, look directly into that camera.
Okay.
That would be best.
Sure.
Now, you don't have to do that all the time.
Okay.
But for this, for the impact of
Sure.
it, for the veracity, we need that.
Right.
All right. Your name is Catherine Pollard Griggs.
Yes.
You are the wife of Colonel George Griggs.
Yes.
11 years of marriage.
Yes.
It's true that your husband is and has been the head of special operations under Admiral Kelso, NATO.
Yes.
And it's true that you were the head of the hospitality committee.
Yes.
You were a member of the executive board of NATO's Wives Club.
Absolutely.
And also that your husband's background includes NATO Defense College in Rome.
Yes.
Princeton class of 1959.
Yes.
His intelligence career, spy career, began in Vietnam.
Yes.
And it's also true that it continues under this day.
Absolutely, under General Wilhelm.
And that your husband was the liaison between the White House and President Jamal of Beirut, Lebanon, at the time of the bombing of the Marine barracks in Lebanon.
Yes.
And in fact, your husband was an alcoholic.
Absolutely.
And probably
Incredible.
is to this day.
Absolutely.
And during these drunken stupors, he would, so to speak, blab on and tell you everything he knew about the intelligence community.
Everything.
Nothing was hid.
No.
It was like he wanted to relieve himself and unburden his heart.
Yes.
And so he told you everything that you now know about the intelligence community.
Yes.
And that you are talking about. And in fact, he told you that they knew the bombing was coming down in Beirut before it occurred.
Absolutely.
And also, by your association with him, you have come to understand and know, as shocking as this may sound to the people who are viewing this, that the United States military is literally run by sexual deviants heavy on the homosexual side.
Truly.
And that in the United States military, people like Jeffrey Dahmer and Kaczynski and McVeigh and Oswald and a host of other people who have a sexual deviant background, primarily homosexual, these individuals are actually sought out by people within the military, the Army, for advancement into intelligence type work because they are so easy to control.
Yes.
And they actually become mind slaves, and that the U.S. military, literally, as outrageous as it sounds, is a mind control operation.
Yes, totally now. Totally now. They've gotten rid of the good folks, like MacArthur. Got rid of them, one by one.
Good.
Totally take over.
All right. Let's talk about the individual who told you that we've never actually been an enemy of the Soviet Union, that somehow that's all just been a scam. Who was that individual?
My husband. When the first 3 years we were married, he was drinking 3 or 4 straight gins, vodkas a night, a bottle of wine, and a beer machine beside his desk. I only knew him 2 months before he asked me to marry him. He'd been married before, and his first wife was a total alcoholic.
Now, someone would ask, why would you marry a man after knowing him only 2 months?
I'm a strong Protestant Christian, and I have a lot of predestination. I'm a Scottish grandmother, and I was working as assistant director of the Chamber of Commerce. I had a brand new, relatively new Saab, my first car. It was an 83 Saab. I bought it secondhand from somebody who's 84. And my husband was driving an 83 Saab. Mine was a turbo, his was not. He rented part of my house. It was, I had a young doctor and his wife and 2 children who were renting the house. They were leaving before the end of the lease time, and they put the ad in the paper and told me about all these people, and I said, no, 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 no. And I was, had been engaged to someone else. You know, I was just renting my house out. And they said that there was this man who had a dog and a mother-in-law and a son, and was a widower and a Marine colonel. Well, and had a dog, and I said, no, absolutely not. So the point that I'm trying to make is that he was someone I was not really, I didn't cotton to. He sort of acted like a robot. He was very clipped, and I didn't want to like him. But when I heard he was a Princeton graduate, I always thought that was kind of great. When I heard he spoke fluent French, and I speak fluent French, When I found out that he drove a Saab, I drove a Saab. And when I found out that he went to the same school, high school, that my uncle had gone to, was in the same eating club at Princeton that my Uncle Ben had gone to. He was on scholarship and went to Princeton. Everything the same as my uncle, who was also in intelligence. But I didn't think about that then. I was just thinking, you know, this is God. This is too much, too many similar things. And so it overwhelmed me. And he's very, very good looking. At that time, he was very good looking. Now he's aged and he really is haggard.
Had a rough life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was overwhelmed by him. Plus, my job at the chamber was very demanding. I was doing a great job. But he said that he wanted me to retire because he wanted to make general. And the man who could make him general was General Louis Buell, because it was just a matter of having somebody who would make you general. To be general it wasn't what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Louis
You needed somebody above
Buell
to pull you on up.
Yeah, Louis just happened to die, and we went to his funeral, and George didn't make it because Louis died. But his first wife had been, I'm sure, battered to death. I was battered, and you know, but I thought it was just Vietnam and all this kind of thing, and I was trying to get him to stop drinking because I couldn't imagine how the Marine Corps would allow someone to be a total alcoholic who couldn't even carry on a normal conversation dry. I mean, he can't even carry on a normal conversation with anyone unless he's drinking. He never smiled unless he had a glass in his hand. He drank solidly. I have a letter in his own hand that tells, and this is the truth, he drank solidly this amount that I just said for 30 years. His booze bill, and they never entertained, he and his first wife, was $250 a month. And this is from the Naval store. Now think about that. Mm-hmm. He was totally snockered, just his whole brain, and yet he's working. He is head of running half the world's Marine Corps under General Al Gray.
A man who is mentally incapacitated,
Totally,
unless he's inebriated, and then when he's drunk, I mean, he's in a different, altered state of mind.
he can't discern anything.
He can follow orders.
Oh, and that's all he does. And he told me one of our many conversations, he thought I was, you know, because my family were all naval officers and I was out in the world with the chamber, you know, that I just sort of went along with this kind of stuff. And, yeah, I mean, it was just incredible to me that...
How many wives of high-up military people are there, like yourself, that are speaking out?
None. I mean, they're all 30-year Marine wives. They're Stepford wives. They are petrified. I have had conversations before I went public, before I went to live with Sarah McClendon, who saved my life.
And Sarah McClendon is
the senior White House correspondent.
Is she that little old lady we see on TV asking the president those pointed, jabbing questions all the time?
The little red-headed, feisty Texan who broke the Billy Saul Estes thing. She doesn't go along with the clone group of reporters who are all, most of them, intelligence officers. I think she was in intelligence because she was in the Army during World War II. Mm-hmm. And she's just a remarkable mind, and I lived with her for 5-6 months. And what's interesting is she called my home after I had called her or seen her on C-SPAN. She couldn't get through to my house. I was living there by myself. Every time she called my home, this is 1996, from March until she finally got hold of me, she had to go to another phone in Maryland to get me on the phone. Every time she called me from her house, she was told, this is a military base, and the Griggses don't live here anymore. Now, that was my phone number long before I met George Griggs. It's my granddaddy's farm. the house that I
Well, so
own.
your phone was being diverted.
Absolutely diverted. It's electronic warfare. It's part of their deception. They have many levels, but it's all under a big operation. They have an operation now to totally ruin me. His first wife was murdered.
Now, you know, some of the things you talk about here, this big operation, you've come to understand about the largeness of it, the intricacies of it, through a diary that you have. Is there? Could you hold that diary up so we can get a look at that? And the thing that I found, this is the actual diary. Just hold it up, kind of like a chest tie.
Okay.
There you go. And these are the actual handwritten notes of your husband.
Absolutely.
And they reveal an awful lot. In fact, does the military or those in the intelligence community, do they realize you have a copy of this?
They do now.
You know,
I had a phone conversation with General Jim Joy.
how long ago was this?
It was in February of '96. I tried to ask the colonels. They knew I was on the move, trying to find information. And my husband had mentioned General Jim Joy.
Yeah, it's hitting the microphone right there. Just
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
That's all right.
All right. And I called General. I had to call a General Miller in Jacksonville, who was in my husband's address book, and told him I was looking for Christmas card list, and I needed General Joy's telephone number because one of the colonels whom I trusted, Colonel Ken Millis, lied to me. Captain Phil Holwager lied to me. And so I got this General Jim Joy, who was the one who was in the Operation Just Cause. Was it Just Cause, the one in Panama? He was in charge of all the psychological operations, the booming music that they hit Noriega with, the chasing him around, the
same stuff they did at Waco, too.
Of course.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
Okay.
That's General Jim Joy, who was behind Waco.
I see.
And General Carl Steiner, the Snake,
Okay.
who tried to steal Desert Storm away from Schwarzkopf.
Okay, so, but you were trying to get some addresses, and they were giving you the complete runaround.
Oh, don't even know him.
Don't even know him.
Don't even know him. And I knew him because my husband told me, that he worked with General Joy and General Steiner. They were the triumvirate. But they had different names. They were, in plain clothes. They had different passports. So I got him on the phone. I was given the number by this General Miller. And I said...
So in the movies, when they say they shall disavow any knowledge, that's not just a little thing for movies. That's the truth. They disavow knowledge of all these people.
Lie.
Yeah. But you nailed him down.
Yes. I said, General Joy, I'm Kay Pollard Griggs. My husband, George Griggs, was in the Marine Corps, and he's battered me badly, and we're looking for him because, this has been going on too long, and blah, blah, blah. And I was recording this conversation, you see. I was sitting on my bed with the diary right out in front of me. And he didn't know that I had the diary. He didn't know anything. It was cold call, like they do cold murders after when they graduate from SEAL school. Cold murders. I was doing a cold telephone call. And he said, "No, I don't believe," and these were his exact words, "No, I don't believe I know your husband." This is someone my husband... I have a card that General Joy sent my husband after the murder, of the death of his first wife, saying, "Call me anytime." This man, here I was, traumatized, battered, beaten, and he lies to me. So I said, "Well, General Joy, that's funny, because I'm looking at my husband's diary when he was in Beirut, and you're meeting with him almost every day." I said, first, before that, I said, he was the chief of staff for General Al Gray. He's one of Gray's boys. Chief of staff of Fleet Marine Force Atlantic, runs half the world, all of the Middle East. NATO Defense College? You don't know my husband? You're a general? You live outside of Quantico? Don't know my husband? I made it very clear. No, can't say as I do.
Wow.
So then I told him about the diary. And these are all immature adolescent males. These are men who don't know how to deal properly with adults. They lie. They're deceptive. They hide behind trees.
But when you nailed him on the diary, when he
Diary,
realized...
he said, his exact words were, "Oh, that George Griggs." Oh, that George Griggs.
And that's just the beginning of the kind of runaround deception that you've found with these people.
Absolutely.
And no doubt that's why they would like very much to have this diary.
Yeah.
This one page I found particularly interesting. What you and you're probably more familiar with their husband's handwriting. Instead of me reading it, read these notes that he had recorded there. These might help.
Okay, I've got these.
Alrighty.
A number of the Marines told me a little bit about Dale Dorman. Dale Dorman's not a happy camper.
Okay.
Dale Dorman, because of some mistakes my husband made, was shot. This was at 7:15 to 7:30. Dorman exited Riviera. That was a place, sort of a hiding place or whatever. Gray and tan Mercedes. Up to 5 shots were fired. He raised his left arm. One round penetrated his arm. One struck his chest. Walked back into Riviera to the desk and called Post 1. Security vehicle went to pick him up. Returned to Dorofound, 15 to 18 meters away, and treated. Medvac called 7:50. Medvac wheels down at 08:10 in a H-Bird helicopter. Riviera Hotel, approximately 1/9 of a mile west of the embassy. Dorman has been there since arrival, except briefly during a period of siege. He was not wearing protection. Saw 3 men in the vehicle. One leaned out back with a shortened rifle or automatic weapon. Sentry at B1 saw and heard nothing. It's just one page of the diary.
Sentry saw and heard nothing.
Right.
In other words, the sentry
Don't talk.
doesn't talk.
Right.
Yeah. And there's just a whole world of these kind of assassinations and murders and directed. In fact, at one point, your husband actually just discussed people being eliminated.
Yeah.
Like you're shooting ducks.
Yeah. Oh, we had innumerable discussions over dinner. He'd already had his 4 gins. Now, he'll talk to any woman or anybody who drinks with him, he'll talk. This man, what is he doing in security? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When he was at NATO, I'll get right back to that. When he was at NATO and he was the head of special operations. In fact, I've got copies of his secret check in and out papers at NATO. He had them at home. I hope I still have those. But anyway, the point is, I could get in and out of the NATO headquarters just walking in, and there were all these shady-looking garbage men, and George would leave his office door wide open at lunchtime. He was flirting with a secretary who was a chief who knew everything. The point is, what lacked security? And I had to say, George, look, you have got to do something about the security here at NATO, because I can walk in and out. He said, oh, just forget it. Forget it. Don't do anything. And I'm a very demonstrative person when it comes to security and honor and integrity, and your word is your bond. My culture, my father, my people believe in this nation, in my state, Virginia, my people, my culture, my God. This is important. You don't just treat that kind of thing lightly. So I said to him, if you don't do something, I'm going to Landis Kelso. I was in the Wives Club. She was the head.
And Landis Kelso is the
wife of Admiral Frank Kelso, who's a wonderful man, honorable man, wonderful woman. And I had great rapport with her. I sort of stopped an international incident with the French and the English and the British who were ganging up against the French, and they were over, something that was really minor, but it was huge. And she helped me. I determined that it was a problem, called her up, and she helped me, and we diverted and averted a major thing. So he knew what I would do, and I said, look, if you don't write a report and do something about this, then I'm just going to go to Landis and say what's happening. Point is that the man would, when he was in Beirut, he was sleeping with a spy and double agent married Clark Yost Talab, whose husband was a double agent, an Arab at the American University of Beirut. He leaves his briefcase wide open. He was with her for 5 weeks in a hotel. This is a married woman with 2 children, and who followed him all around the United States, is still seeing him. Met him in London, lived in Virginia Beach, was working in international programs at ODU while he was married.
Would you say your husband is fairly typical of these powerful men?
Oh, absolutely typical. When I was single, working at the Virginia Center for World Trade, 4 of us old friends that I went to school with, Molly Holt and a few others, we would go all together to a place called Poppy's. At that time, he was Captain Jerry Unruh. Now he's Admiral 3 stars Jerry Unruh. This man, again, was married. He was running around with the tailhook crowd. I did not know he was married. I knew he was a Navy captain. I was told by him that he would be taking command of the carrier Saratoga.
Mm-hmm.
He followed me everywhere, even went up to Wintergreen. Now, he sent me pictures, private, separate pictures of the Israeli guys waving to him. He was a tailhook pilot, the airplanes, the jets. And he was a Mustang, but totally immoral. Totally, and knew that he would never get caught. In fact, he was in tailhook. They had a big party down at the beach, and they were doing, I didn't go by that time because I learned that he was married. And the point is that he and this whole group, I've found out about Al Gray,
General Al Gray.
Yeah, yeah.
And what is this this consistent thread of the sexual degeneracy and the homosexuality and just the raw, base nature that seems to be so prevalent? Have you ever determined what it is? Why?
Well, it's a way to handle them, to control them.
Years ago, you thought of people like General Eisenhower as an upright man. I don't know.
I know some things about him.
How far back can we go to where you find people that are decent and moral and upright?
Right.
Where you had real people who defended the Constitution, who had a feeling.
Robert E. Lee was.
There were nationalists and America first. You got to go back a good ways, probably.
Absolutely. You see, growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, my whole family had been naval officers and also working. In other words, they would enter the service during a time of war, of need, and then they go back to being fathers and being husbands. I had a wonderful father, wonderful grandparents, wonderful family who put their family first. Well, they put their God first, Christ, and then their wives and their sons and their children. This is the way America was built. Now, these generals in the Marine Corps and Army, they don't look at it that way, according to my husband. They are ordered, my husband being chief of staff, told his men it was like this. It's the Marine Corps first, the brotherhood, the cherry Marine, the bonding that goes on. The Marine Corps comes before God, before Jesus Christ, before the country. And then it's it's whatever the religion they have. I don't know, because my husband is not a Christian. He's an existentialist. And most of these guys are. Certainly Al Gray is. Krulak. I think his wife goes to church, but
their God is this brotherhood.
The brotherhood, and it's very German. It's very.
Does it have Masonic leanings?
Oh, absolutely Masonic leanings. In fact, the admiral who was the last admiral whose car my husband bought, who was very impressed with this Norwegian admiral. They're all Masons now.
Mm-hmm.
Not all Masons, but this brotherhood, Opus Dei, if they're, or the mob. I mean, the one thing I've been able to determine about the current Marine Corps, the Marine Corps that my husband came in with, Gray, Reap, Sheehan, they're all mob.
Now, when you say mob, you're talking mafia type
New
mob?
Jersey mafia, right. Right.
And there's
Brooklyn, New Jersey.
Okay, is the mob and this military bunch, they're this one and the same?
The Marine Corps guys are the hitmen, and they are mercenaries. They'll work for anybody. You think the Marine Corps is under the Navy? No way. They can just as easily be under an Army colonel, and if the Army colonel meets a Marine Corps colonel, the Army colonel is superior. They'll switch hats just like that. My husband said it's just, no big a deal. I'll go work for the State Department. I don't really. The Marine Corps is just it's like a smoke and mirrors thing. And they're run out of New Orleans. 4th Marine, Oswald. I mean, they are not on his level. He said, we've never been an enemy of the Soviet Union. They work with these communists. The man who started this whole intelligence operation, the OSS, he was recruiting known communists who were involved in the Spanish subverting Spain. There's no more. They're not Americans. They're not Christians. They're German existentialists. Now, what are they doing running our nation? It's kind of, they have more affinity for the state of Israel right now than they do our nation. They don't care about American citizens. The judges now in the courts are military officers following chain of command orders. They're not independent judges.
So all this spills over then into the political areas, like the judgeships.
Sure. They're all Marines or Army
Senators,
officers.
congressmen.
Sure. Who is John Warner? A Marine. Who is Chuck Robb? A Marine. They control the powerful committees. Dick Davis, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. A Marine. His wife was, I hate to say it, well, everybody knows, in Norfolk, a prostitute. Martha was a wonderful woman, I'm sure, to him, but they were involved in organized crime. Now, I don't know, I know that our present governor in Virginia is an Army officer. He takes orders. So the question that all of us wives are asking now is, well, who gives the orders? If they're told that we, the wives, are enemies, how are the sons going to grow up? If the mothers who are teaching them truth are lied to, and the husbands are told, ordered by the likes of Al Gray, major homosexual, when he was in the, I shouldn't say this, but it's true, when he was in Marseille, the boys are called Gray's boys. He never married.
Okay, the boys referring to everybody
Lavender
under
boys,
him.
everybody under Al Gray. And he had a separate organization while he was commandant that was a contract organization, getting information on on people, having them, if they weren't corrupted, corrupting them, farming people, so that he would have something on them, so that they would use that later to control and manipulate them. It's like what happened to Newt Gingrich. All of these guys, like Newt Gingrich, Bill Clinton, who've gone through the sweats, like Cohen, what happens is they get a little tiny thing to prove their power, how much power they have. They use guys like Michael Isikoff in Newsweek, or their little clones, like Woodard and Bernstein, who are operatives.
Okay, they're former military too.
Well, oh my goodness. They were, I believe it was Bob Woodward. It's either Woodward or the other one.
Bernstein.
See, I knew some British intelligence people. And I was told the whole story about how he was running around with Peter Jay's wife, who was the ambassador to Great Britain. And this man was sleeping with Peter Jay's wife. And there was a movie, I think Jack Nicholson was this guy. And this was her story about what she went through while her husband, the columnist, was sleeping with the ambassador's wife to get information on what was going on in Great Britain. Now, this is the team that broke Watergate. So what were the motives? Of course, Watergate was horrible. And Nixon had something like 60 military JAGs alone working for him, doing dirty tricks. One of those JAGs was Ernest Frank Reynolds. Changed his name to Ern Reynolds. He came to me. I was farmed. Tim Hunter, an intelligence army operative, came to me with this story about, hard luck, Saudi Arabia, and I was in the army, and I have this friend who can help you out with your legal case. He's a really good guy, Ern Reynolds. And if you meet him, I know he'll do some free legal work for you. So I was staying with Sarah, and I didn't have any money, and but I took the little, the train into Fairfax. He met me in his Volvo station wagon with his jacket on. I didn't know what the big 4 meant on his leather jacket. And he took me to his...
what did it mean?
4th Marine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Operative.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the most fantastic apartment. See, I'm a big book person, and I love, reading history and everything, and I'm impressed by people who read, who are intelligent, who are wise.
You have a master's yourself in?
Scottish history, an undergraduate in Virginia history.
Okay.
I worked on the Dunmore papers. I studied with people like Ian Cowan and Geoffrey Barrow and Tom Devine. These are scholars in Great Britain who are experts on the Reformation, and my interest was Mary Queen of Scots at the Reformation, and also Lord Dunmore, who was the last royal governor of Virginia, and I was working on the Dunmore papers too.
I see.
So
you had an interest in, this guy's layout impressed you.
Yeah.
He's a real intellectual.
Yeah, and he was divorced, a sad story and everything. Worked for the Justice Department. Mm-hmm. Was supposedly a whistleblower. Mm-hmm. Supposedly a Christian.
So this guy's really going to help you out?
Oh, yeah. Boy, did I buy into that.
It's like the old story, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you.
Oh, yeah. So I caught him sneaking around my house at 2 o'clock one morning.
2 in the morning?
Yeah, and of course I'm most gullible in school, So I'm trusting, I'm a Christian, and I always look to the good side of somebody. I see the good little part. It took me about 3 times. The guy had my original documents that had just been in my briefcase under his car seat. He invites me to a cybernetics conference in Champaign, Illinois. I leave Martha Roundtree's apartment, and it's arranged so that all of my things are in his safe little car, and we're going to his parents' house in Roanoke. And of course, you can't take all your things to the cybernetics conference, because I was going home. But this is a smooth psychological operations guy. I mean, he is doing psychological operations on a woman in Champaign, Illinois, who is the lover of a German spy, who he's been writing letters to her, and he's showing me these letters. The guy's perverted. I mean, he's writing Susan Parenti these letters, you know, like invading her mind, and, you know, why are you... And Susan's written him 2 letters or 3 letters. She's very beautiful, and he's got pictures. But he's sharing these letters with a group of men, 7 men, one of whom is head of intelligence, is head of computers and the intelligence for the Army, Ron Jarmuth. Now, Ron Jarmuth comes right out and says, I'm an anarchist. You know, I mean, his family are New York, old Zionist Jews. He met his wife in, I think, in a kibbutz. You know, I mean, he's a nice, personable guy, but when you say to somebody like me, I'm an anarchist, just so blithely, and you know, and he's always over at Ern's house. And Ern's got a picture by his bedstead drawn by a man who's a known homosexual whom he met when he was at the University of Virginia, who was the chaplain at Hollins College, who my best friend was there. And she said, he's a well-known homosexual. And I'm thinking, what is a picture of Ern Reynolds doing being painted when he's young by this known homosexual? And then I find out that the man who enlisted him in the Republican Party, he was doing dirty tricks for 7 years for the Republican National Committee. I mean, dirty tricks. Underneath this man from West Virginia who was a homosexual, and left all of his money to Ern's son, and took his son on a trip. Now, and Ern is a lobbyist for homosexuals. He's just, you know, working in the Episcopal Church. He's got a group of women that he meets with at the seminary. I'm sure that my case, my profile, he's probably got charge of it now. He's the expert on Catherine Pollard Griggs, but he's not. The guy is absolutely not grown up.
But
he's a thief.
And so your case just got stonewalled, just got sucked into a memory hole by a guy who was acting under orders to...
Sure.
You get Catherine Griggs under your control, and that's that.
Sabotage her.
Sabotage, yeah.
Sure.
And he's